Hey there, guys. This is Molorian, and this is Jank Tank, and with me, as always, is
Tin Man XL.
we got the team back together. Tin Man's feeling better, so that's awesome because we got lots of stuff to talk about. We have all the new Gencon models coming out. Tin Man was just telling me about how he's having some troubles with some Durst, so we'll have to talk about that. And we have lots of questions, which is awesome. So I guess to start off, Tin Man, what have you been up to the last 2 weeks, I guess?
Last 2 weeks? Well, sick last week. Got in some War Machine. We getting in games in with a few guys I know. Did a little bit painting, but then I went and got sick. So like last weekend, I was hoping to finish these guys, but got a little more.
Okay,
a little more progress there on this guy here. These guys will not match the Sword Knights I painted back in 2006. I'm just like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, when you paint things 9 years later, the style is going to change. So,
and Games Workshop discontinuing paints, and then there's stuff I custom mixed that I don't have anymore. So I'm like, all right, see here.
So is this the basing you have left, or is there still other details?
Well, I got to apply this technique known as liquid skill. And then, do a little bit of cleanup after the liquid skill. And then do the basing. And then, after doing the basing, apply some high gloss varnish, followed by some Tester's Dull Coat.
Okay.
And then get them on the tabletop.
So, with those games you're getting, you want to talk about your troubles you're having?
Anson Durst. So I faced him with, I believe, Nemo. No, I faced him with Striker 1. And I think I put up a pretty good fight with Striker 1, but still couldn't take him down.
All right.
Faced him with Epic Kane. I never thought I would ever play a game with Epic Kane where I just like sitting there going, oh my God, what do I shoot at?
Okay. So what was the builds? Like, what was the Durst list looking like that you were playing against?
Well, can't quite remember the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one I faced was the Theme Force. He had, that was last night, he had Temple Flame Guard, and a part of the Theme Force is he could get the unit attachment for free. He had, the 3 different, he had Dart and Vilman and the 2 Paladins. He had a Templar, because part of the Theme Force is he can only have Warjacks with shields on them.
Yeah.
That are carrying shields. So he had
Templars are pretty popular.
Yeah, he had a Templar and he had a Devout.
Okay, yeah.
And of course he had a Mechanic, a Vassal, and some Choir. And I'm going, he gets all the buffs. Basically.
Lots of buffs.
And it was just like all these warrior models with above 20 armor.
Mm.
And I'm like, don't, this is me. I'm just like, yeah, we'll play 25 points? Sure. And he's like, yeah, I can get to tier 4 with that. I don't know what he's playing. I don't want to be that guy. I try to figure out what he's playing before I build my list. Then I build my list. So I was like, Epic Kane. Right? So I took Epic Kane, a Stormclad, a Squire. I took the Black 13th. I took the Gun Mages with the Dude. I took Rangers. Oh, so it's a good solid list right here.
I'm surprised to see the Stormclad in there because normally, Epic Kane's pretty, greedy with his focus. Do you just normally have him running just just in case, and then you load him up as you need him?
Yeah, it's just situational.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing is that when it comes to cracking armor, Kane does that on his feet turn. I need a heavy Warjack on the table to crack bust some skulls, and I'm not going to put that in the hands of a journeyman Warcaster. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to put that in. I mean, when I get Alice and Jake's put together, I might try something like that. But the thing is, you take that out to journeyman, the Jack goes inert.
It's true.
So it's like,
so I guess like Durst, he sits a pretty high armor, right? Because normally he's just pretty much camping. What armor is he normally?
I believe he's like armor 17 normally.
Well, that's not bad. Dice -5 for Kane, but
But
then camping higher, right?
But yeah, then he's spamming his focus, right?
Mhm.
Camping the focus, and he's casting deflection, which gives warrior models +2 armor versus range attacks. Kane does nothing but range attacks.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, this was a bad choice.
Yeah, see, for me, I play Signar in a different way. So Durst wasn't much of a boogeyman to me. I still haven't played the matchup, but to me, it's just like, well, I just jam it up and I go for scenario. But, you know, originally I thought that Durst wouldn't be that bad because if he wants to pop his feet, Signar is so shooty, he doesn't know, like, do I pop it now? Do I pop it later? And basically, whenever he doesn't pop his feet, that's when you start popping off the guns. But man, that armor is still high enough that even our assassination casters like Peak or Epic Kane, they still can't crack that.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, the paladins, they've got like 23 armor. Like literally, I was like dealing with the paladin, just like, okay, Storm and Mortar stance, they're like 23 armor.
Mm-hmm.
Then with you had 23 armor. Deflect your breath 25. The only thing I could really think of to get around to deal with that are trencher commandos because they have anatomical precision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be.
It's like, okay, if I can manage to get a bunch of trencher commandos in there to auto point some of these guys to drop them, that might work. But
I know too, like one of the ones that you think would be a good armor cracker might be like Epic Striker. But in one of the battle reports I read on this one is a guy goes in with Epic Striker, then all of a sudden the other guy just do a little stab, right? That's one of Durst's things. Like, hey, you want to come at me? I'm going to stab you back. And when he goes Super Saiyan, he doesn't have very many hit points left. So it's like, oh, that's not really a very good odds assassination when you start thinking about that little stab you got to take.
So Durst has repost?
Retaliatory strike, I believe it is. So if you hit him, he gets to hit you back. So Striker gets like one big wapow and then stab. It's like, well, if you didn't kill me, you might be dead yourself. Do you want to take that chance?
I should consider myself lucky that my friend Tom forgot to trigger it.
Now, it's only once per turn. It's not like Riposte where it's like over and over. If you miss, I get to keep on striking back. But yeah, I mean, he's, as a weapon master, he can do some pretty good damage with that.
Oh, yeah. Anson Dearth, Rock of Faith. Yeah, let's see here.
So while you're looking it up, I'm going to just kind of cover some of the things I did last week.
Oh, also.
Oh, got more.
I got her.
Hey, there's Haley 3.
So we got to put her together. Not too happy with Tinker House Games.
Why not? What happened?
The Haley 3 card's not in War Room.
Yeah, they're still fighting to try and get that guy in there. You know what? I'm actually happy about that because I got the like pre-release model thing with the big box and I paid like way too much money for it. So to me, it's like, you know what? The longer this takes to get on War Room, I feel better about getting that pre-deal. It's like, okay. But, you know. But yeah, you should have lots of fun with Haley 3. I don't know if she'll be an answer to Durst, but yeah, it should be interesting.
She's really nuanced. That's what I could tell. And let me see if I can get her cards out here. Try not to drop any bits on the shag carpet. Or as a friend of mine likes to call it, the shag carpet of holding. And let's see here. Okay, wow. They put the cards in out of order. But hey. Anyways.
So I was just informed that my daughter's nose is bleeding. If you'd like, do you want to start looking into some of the Gencon stuff coming out? And I'll come right back as fast as I can.
All right. I don't got the gift of gab, but I can definitely talk. Now, so we're going to go to Chain Attack here because they post all this good stuff. If you're not following them on Facebook, you definitely should be. Let's see here. And I hope I'm still live on this. Well, I'm going to keep going in. All right, so we got Zaal, the Ancestral Advocate, or as we like to call him around here, Epic Stink Eye. See what's going on with Epic Stink Eye here. So they got the cards on Chain Attack. And they've been kind of showing the cards out of grouping there. So let's have a look here. Scrolling down. All right. Anyhow. All right, let's go to photos. So anyways, Epic Stink Eye, Epic Zaal, Zaal2. We talk about his feat. His feat, of course, is a remove D6 plus 3 damage from each friendly faction model with the construct advantage in Zaal's control area. While in Zaal's control area, friendly faction models with the construct advantage gain boosted melee attack rolls and plus 5 armor. So that's a good defensive feat with a plus 5 armor. And, of course, really great for offense, especially in Alpha Strike with the Immortals, and not to mention the Ancestral Guardians, getting that any damage on them healed. That's definitely going to be a beast to deal with. But especially in Alpha Strike coming from Immortals.
Who are we talking about?
Anyway, talk about Stink Eye.
So you don't like Zaal2?
No, we just call him Stink Eye because he's the model, the Zaal1, the look on his face when he's holding up the lantern.
So have you talked about what stats he has and stuff already, or spells?
Well, just talking about his feet here.
Okay, yeah.
And of course,
for his feet, that also affects him as well.
Yep. And I was just saying, of course, that's a good for an Alpha Strike with Immortals. Right there, because the Immortals charge in, and if your opponent's got high defense models, those high defense models are going down.
Mm-hmm.
Like my gun mages. Anyways, his abilities on the back, he's got direct spirits when a friendly living faction warrior model is destroyed in his control area and generates a soul. You choose which eligible model gains a soul. So no more measuring to see who gets it. You just goes where you want it, which is going to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose which eligible model gains soul regardless of the proximity of other models. Enemy models never gain soul tokens for friendly living faction warrior models destroyed in that model's control area. Ooh. He is going to troll so many casters out there. Constance Blaze, Lich Lord Terminus, if people ever play him.
Also, he gets to pick where it goes. So if you have multiple Ancestral Guardians, you'll be like, okay, I have enough souls in that one. Let's move it over to this guy. Like, it lets you do a little bit of management there as well. So good ability to have. It also screws over Cricks and stuff. So,
Oh, yeah, Cricks is, Cricks players are going to cry when this guy gets placed on the table. We're going to see we're going to see epic rage quitting meltdowns at tournaments. I'm telling you, because they're going to be someone's going to show up with their Asphyxious list ready to go, and then they're going to see Epic Zaal on the other end of the table from the scoring player, and it's just going to be some old school John McEnroe.
Hey,
you got to be kidding me!
See an upset Cricks player, that's always a good thing. So I'm okay with that.
And then the rest of us are going to be like, well, that's what you get for running body and soul. Anyways, he's got Righteous Vengeance. If one or more friendly faction warrior model were destroyed or removed from play by the enemy attacks within 5 inches of this model during your opponent's last turn, after resolving the continuous effects during your maintenance phase, this model can make a full advance by one normal attack. Followed by one normal attack. Yeah, because, there's like glare on the card. He's got Reclaim. This model gains 1 soul token for each friendly living faction warrior model destroyed by a continuous effect, an enemy attack, or collateral damage from an enemy attack in its control area. During the control phase, after the model leeches fury, but before, It spends Fury to upkeep spells. Replace each soul token with a Fury point.
And that's a huge ability for him. Huge.
Indeed. But you know what?
What?
Stormsmith don't care.
I guess.
And he's steady, so he can't get knocked down. So
he also has silencer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
won't come up much, but it's cool.
Freaking glare on the model, so I can't really read the line. But see here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but like Jarrett Crow's gun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeesh. And moving on. Well, that's a Glacial King, but we're still talking about Zaal.
So some of the spells he has, a lot of them are pretty meh, and they're not actually going to do very much. But the number one that is going to be very interesting with him is actually Transference. So here, the ones he has is Annihilation. He has Mage Sight, Sunder Spirit, Transference, and Vision. Now, when Transference, of course, we know Constance as Signar players, and you really need the feat to kind of get the focus, to kind of make it worthwhile. But with Zaal always getting in the fury from all the models dying around him, all the friendly ones, he can actually get a lot from Transference and actually get a lot going. Also, of course, Vision's great. Let things be a little bit more survivable, where they can ignore the first hit. But I mean, a lot of people, when they first saw this, are like, oh, Zaal's the worst caster. He's probably the worst caster in the game. I don't think that at all. I really see him as I played a lot of Callus when I did Legion, where you have lots of infantry, blah, blah, blah. I do lots of infantry now. But he is basically a Callus or a Constance that, like Constance, he can do the transference, but he actually will have enough to keep it up. So he's going to take lots and lots of troops, and he just keeps on like getting to boost everything as you go forward. Like Constance, he can really threaten the assassination, but again, he has this fury all the time. So he's always going to be threatening that assassination, especially with that righteous vengeance, where it's like, hey, you killed someone around me, I'm coming closer. And he might be ending up with, say, 14 Fury, and he gets to move up, and then he has Reach and POW 14 and all the other little score and buffs you can do too. He's basically like a frontline Callus Constance type of thing that's really looking for a whole bunch of infantry. And then with his feat as well, like when you're playing that far forward, if I feel endangered, okay, bam, I'll pop that feat, get that +5 armor on my caster, and he's already pretty high armor anyway. I believe he's already armor 18, so he's going to armor 23, and he can transfer. Like, you're not going to kill this guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's no, like, Denny 2 or anything like that, but where people are saying, like, he's the worst caster in the game, I don't see that at all.
No one's played with him yet. He got leaked, but no one's really playing with him yet. So a lot of people like to jump to conclusions. But the same people are saying that he's the worst. We know what they're going to say when someone wins a big tournament with him somewhere.
And then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, wow, he's actually kind of interesting.
Then suddenly they're going to, it's like with Jeremiah Cray years ago. People used to say, what are you playing with Jeremiah Cray for? He sucks. I'd post a battle report with Jeremiah Cray. And it's like, oh, why are you even playing with Jeremiah Cray? He's one of our worst guys. What do you mean you like him so much? And then dude won a Masters event at Gencon with him. After that, the forums is like, oh, that'll be Cray-tastic.
Yeah.
I never forgot that. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So you same people were sitting there saying that, telling me that Cray was bad and talking about me running Cray in my battle reports, and you turn around talking about it's Cray-tastic. Yeah.
You think he's garbage until all of a sudden your Stormclad goes charging across the board and kills you from bajillion miles away. So
there's a battle report I did with Tom where literally I took out his caster with the long bomb from the Stormclad, and Tom just goes, I played Malak Karn and this is broken.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. We got the Glacier King.
Only 18 points, so good to see that point cost come down from the 20s they were before.
And let's see. First card just is Damage Sprout, so I don't think we're going to be talking at length about, oh, look at all that body. But let's see here. He's got Frozen Ground for his Animus when an enemy model without immunity to cold ends its activation within 3 inches of this model. The enemy model is knocked down. That's dirty.
And it's not super amazing itself, so it's either on him and the caster. But you know what? It's still a decent one, right? It's not like an Archangel Animus where it's like, this is something where you could really see this being used, especially because 3 inches. That means you can have your bunker around your caster, and when they hit the front side there, and probably stop at the whatever champs or whatever you're taking there, boom, they're knocked down after, and you can clear them off. And I mean, it's a usable Animus.
Well, the thing is, too, that stops you from melee assassinations.
Well, it's at the end of the activation, so you get to come in and you get to attack first, and then you're knocked down. But then you know that whatever you sent in there, it's dead.
Oh, yeah. We got Snacking. He gets his snack on Snowfall. That's interesting. Within 3 inches of this model. They gain, of course, Concealment, and models with Prowl gain Stealth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always good. That's a good buff there.
Especially that Prowl one, because there's actually a few casters that do have Prowl, and Eunice is like, oh, okay, that could come in now.
We'll protect you from direct hits now. It'll protect you direct hits. And then if someone tries to target the Glacier King with an AoE, well, its base is bigger than any most AoEs, so.
Oh, no, it's not going to be protecting the Glacier King, but anything around him, he can be helping other guys.
Well, I didn't say I was protecting the Glacier King. I said that if someone targets the Glacier King to try to get to the guy next to him, then if it's like a bounce effect, like Ashes to Ashes or Chain Lightning, that'll work. But if someone tries to throw an AoE at the Glacier King, in hopes of catching something next to it, that thing next to it does not want to be in base contact if they're throwing a 5 at you.
That's very true, yeah.
They're throwing the full pie plate at you. We got, of course, Thunderbolt on his ranged attack here.
And his ranged attack is actually pretty impressive. So, I mean, before we get into the actual ability of it, this thing is a range 12, and they're sniping the faction, so it could be range 16, rate of fire 3, POW 14. So, pretty serious gun for trolls.
Plus, it's pushing D3, which is great for scenario play, and of course, the big Frosty Fist just freezes things on contact.
Yeah. And I mean, it's good for a scenario, like you said. It's also just good for keeping the Glacier King alive, right? If you have some heavies coming in on you, it's like, okay, you go back while we deal with this other heavy, and it's just good for that kind of board control, if nothing else.
And then we got a preview of the backside of the card of the Pharaoh Brigand.
Oh, do you want to go over some of the stats for this guy first, quick?
I don't have access to his stats. I'm looking through chain attack, but I don't see the front of the card.
His fists are 19. I was kind of thinking it was going to be 20, but 19 is still good. Of course, he's immune to being frozen. He's Fury 5. He also has Terror, which is a pretty nice thing to have. I mean, why not? He's Speed 5, Mat 5, Rat 5. So, again, the Mat is a little bit lower, but hey, things will be around you, will be knocked down. If you do the Animus, plus with his fists, he can be stationaring you anyway. So you only got to hit once, and then it's good forever. Defense 9.
Still talking about the Glacial King?
Sorry?
We're still talking about the Glacial King, right?
Yeah. And then armor 19. So anyway, so I think the Glacier King, I don't know if he'll be taken, but he's definitely a lot more viable than a Mountain King. But that gun, I think the gun will be the biggest thing for trolls. You had the whole throw and spray with the Mountain King, but this guy with his possible 3 shots at, range 16, POW 14, it's, you can do a lot of damage at range. So maybe some shooty lists will take this. But the Pharaoh one, I got to say, out of all the ones, this is the one that's the biggest disappointment to me. But you want to get into him?
Well, let's see. He's an attachment for the Pharaoh Brigands, of course. He's got dig in, like a brigand. Granted gang, so as long as he's around, they get that +2 to attack and melee rolls.
Yeah,
which is good for them in a way. Then we got Reform. They get to move an extra 3 inches, which might nullify their dig in. So you got to watch how they use that.
Yeah.
Tactics Prowl. They can, of course, prowl. So things that cause concealment. Don't know how much access the Thornfall Alliance has to concealment causing effects. but that might hint that perhaps one of them will get Fog of War. I'm going to feel really dumb if one of them already has it.
I know so little about pigs because they almost never show up. Only one I ever see is Carver, if anything. So, but I think they can take, if nothing else, the little gobbers, right, with the cloud. So there's one thing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this guy's 3 points. He has 2 guns. And I'm just not a fan of him. I mean, like you said, if you ever do the dig in and then reform, then they all lose it. Somebody brought up the idea that, okay, they dig in, or sorry, he digs in, and then the rest of the unit can reform up. So then this leader guy is at least more protected because he's still dug in where all the rest reformed. But it's like, that's not big of a deal. Getting gang, these guys are usually about their POW 12 guns, or with Carver where they're charging in and getting the extra dice of damage. And when you're doing that, you don't want to gang. You want to get as many of those attacks as possible. So it's just the prowl, maybe, if you're wanting to, like, I don't know if you want to be sending these guys through a forest or something, but I don't know. He's just not really doing it for me. I mean, I look at this guy and it's like, that's not really what the pigs needed.
Yeah, let's see here. I was going to bring up the stats real quick, assuming War Room lets me load it. Lately, I'll go to look at something, and units. Okay, everything's there. We got the Thorough Brigands. Okay. I'll go to load up a faction, and it'll be blank, and it's like, but I paid for it. Why is it blank?
Yeah.
War Room, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, with their Billy clubs, their power up is strength 10. So essentially, with gang, they become mat 8, power up is strength 12. That's actually pretty good.
I guess, but I mean, the problem is when here's the 2 options you have when you're going to be going into combat. Either these guys will go in and start doing that fighting, or they kind of stay back and shoot. I mean, I guess they could do their hog wild or whatever their thing is, where they get to shoot and go into combat. But it's just, when you have a UA that's making you do this, it just seems it wasn't really enough for what you want a UA to give you, right? I don't know. I'm just hoping for something a little bit extra. All these abilities, right? It's like prowl, gang, reform. It's like, okay, that's all kind of cool, but it's all these things that don't really give them what they want, right? I don't know. And maybe it's just I'm just was hoping that minions just get that much better. I was hoping to get a super attachment, but this was pretty meh to me. So. But anyway, we should bring back the positivity. Do you have any other thoughts on these releases so far? Here's a question for you. Were you surprised there's only the 3? I thought there was going to be more things spoiled at Gen Con.
Well, it just means more things to get spoiled later. I was just disappointed that I didn't see stats on the Surfing Bird.
Yeah. The teaser for us Signer guys is that they had Ace there, but just being painted to show off. No, not for pre-sale or anything like that. As soon as I heard about that and I saw the pictures of it being done there at Gen Con, I was like, oh my God, I have to find a ninja quick. But nope, still not out for sale or anything like that. So,
well, if they're painting him, that means they get him painted. He gets up on the website. That just lets us know that the release date's going to be on the horizon there.
Yeah.
We may not have to wait, like a couple of years for him to come out.
So any other thoughts on either Zaal2, Glacier King, or the War Pig thing?
Not really.
Okay. Well, we got some questions we can get to because you guys gave us lots of questions. So the first one here is pretty easy because you've already really done it. It comes from Bob Smith, and he's like, hey, what do you guys think about the new stuff at Gen Con? And so we've already really done that. Next one comes from David Williams, and what he wants to know, firstly, is what is our favorite list or tier for our faction? So is there like a favorite tier list you have there, Tin Man? Or like a favorite list? Like, oh man, this is my favorite list to run?
Tier list favorites? I like Fiona the Black's theme force. I'll buy things for Fiona the Black's themed list. Like I'm going to be buying Acosta. For Fiona. There's also Epic Nemo Theme Force that I like.
This is Nemo 2 or 3?
Nemo 2.
Yep.
Bring in the extra Stormsmiths that get the extra their extra buff there is always nice. Power Strength 12.
I was actually just making a Nemo 2 list earlier this week that had Stormwall, 3 defenders, and then like 6 Stormcallers. And it just... But
Stormcallers, they die to a stiff breeze, but they fine. I've got a second unit of Stormguard. I just got to put them together and paint them.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think for me, my favorite type of tier list is the ones that make things different. I really like the idea of like the Sons of the Tempest, where you get to get all these gun mages. I also really like the Darius one, where you get to take all the jacks at -1 point. You know, those things kind of really fit. They're not really overpowered. They just really change the way you take your force. So, you know, those are a type of tier lists I really like. And I mean, that Darius tier I've played quite often, and I like it a lot.
You know, one thing I like about Fiona's theme force is that it really is a theme. It really feels like a theme force because it's her rolling with her themerites, you know, and opposed to her rolling as a pirate or just general mercenary.
Now, this one here, I might have to lean on you because I don't really know the fluff of this part, but he was saying that he wants to do a Crix Epic Sturgis tier list, and he was wondering if you know if there's any storyline behind him in his battle group. Like, is there any kind of, like, jacks he normally takes? And I didn't read the Epic Sturgis fluff at all. Do you know any of that stuff?
Man, I haven't really read much fluff since Mark 1. I got to get caught up on my fluff. Closest I got to reading Mark 2 fluff is I bought a couple of the Skull Island Expedition books that I have sitting on my iPad. Like, I got The Way of Cain, and I got the book on Phineas Shay, because Shay's my favorite mercenary caster. So, yeah, it's I'm like the last guy to ask about fluff. Now, if Neek von Slagmat was on here, we'd just be passing the mic to him, and he would have it covered. But if he was on here now, I'd be sitting here going, "Ooh, it's too early," because he's in Denmark.
Well, from what I understand, with the tier list,
no, he's in the Netherlands. I said Denmark. He's in the Netherlands.
All right. Okay. But as I understand the Epic Sturgis tier list, the reason why that one's taken some time is because you get so many dudes. Mechanothralls are unlimited. I believe they're also 1 point cheaper. So this is one of the few lists that can actually get up to like 100 models. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that really follows the fluff of what's in like the story. But as far as the tier list, that's kind of the crazy thing it does. It also would cost a lot of money to put together. So I don't know if that's what you want to do, but if you're wondering what people do with that. Next question coming down here to the Sustainable Center, one of my old fantasy buddies. He says, make me a Harbinger list that he wants to run, that he wants to be Bastion heavy so that they can't just be like killed really easily and stuff. And he wants us to discuss that. So I made a list for that this week because I saw that one posted before. And so I'll tell you what my list I made there, Tin Man, and you can tell me what you think of it. It is the Harbinger, of course. For Jacks, I have 4 Reckoners. So pew, 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 pew. I'm pretty sure I got the Minquire in there. I got the Hierophant. And then it's 2 max units of Bastions. And then also the Seneschal. So really the way that the list is supposed to work is with her 10 focus, she can easily pass around all the focus to the Reckoners. They can get a lot of shots done from that. Of course, the Bastions are going around between her martyrdom and them healing and all that stuff. It's really hard to get past that. So it's really just a brick. You got this strong brick that's moving up. The danger of any brick, of course, is where you might get jammed out of the zone. But that's where Harbinger's feet comes in, where you just kind of run up first turn. If either first turn or second turn, you pop your feet, and then with them being held back to the feet, that allows you to actually get into the zone and say, all right, we got this line, and if you want to hit my Bastions, they're pretty hard to kill. And even at that point, my Reckoners are standing behind the Bastions, beating you up or shooting down what I want. So I think it works, but that was my take on it. What do you think about that one there, Tin Man?
Thing is, the thing is, is this. Harbinger's open for attack because there's no devout nearby to absorb range attacks, and she's spending her focus to fuel the Reckoners. She doesn't have anything that camp up her armor.
However, there's she can Reckoners in front of her. So there's a wall of Reckoners blocking the shots.
She's on a large base.
So are the Reckoners.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of the Redeemers. What? Never mind. Why am I thinking of the Redeemers? Yeah, Reckoners. Okay, that works. So it's a wall of Reckoners.
Yeah, 4 Reckoners.
It's just a matter of using a push effect to get a Reckoner moved just enough to create a gap to Harvey.
Could be.
Or knocking a Reckoner down from remote. You got the book in there?
No, the book didn't fit in there. I mean, you could always change up and like take out a Reckoner or whatever, but that was like my brick list just to go up. So what do you think? Like, if you were to build it, and all that he asked that must be in the list is Harbinger and 2 units of Bastions. Like, how do you figure that you'd build that list?
I'm throwing find a way to squeeze in a couple of vassals for that ancillary attack. Because it's like that just gets you more shooty there, and nothing more demoralizing than you think it's done, and then the vassal walks up.
Or enliven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to charge you. He moved.
Yeah. So maybe you have a reach to go over and hit the Reckoner behind the Bastions. Okay, you can take your 1 hit. See ya. I'll be back. So, okay, maybe going down to 3 Reckoners or 2 or whatever. Like, what do you do for your battle group, do you figure?
Well, I would definitely have a devout in there to absorb hits on Harvey. In case there's always a way to open up line of sight on someone. Like, if I'm rolling with Siege, just like, well, if Harvey's in my control area and there's Reckoners in the well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put down a foxhole.
Yeah.
And I'm going to foxhole the Reckoners in front of Harvey. And look, now she's exposed, and it's my feet turn.
Yeah. Do not drop this against Siege. Do not drop this against Krios. It'll be a bad idea.
And then it's like, okay, well, if I've got a Galleon on Fiona the Black, well, then she's got a spell that makes that stuff see-through.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, Galleon's now going to light up Harvey, and those Reckoners ain't blocking nothing.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's definitely silver bullets to be sure. But, so there you go. Sustainable Center. Those are some couple of takes of things you can do with that and what to look out for. James Clark, this is the one we were talking about where he had quite a few questions. He used to do fantasy, then he did War Machine, then he went back, and then back here again. But he has a couple of things he's looking to get into. First thing is that he got into Scorn and Retribution, and he was wondering if we could give him the thoughts on Retribution as a faction, and if we have any tips for what lists he should have. Yeah, he just said like he built like a Phoenix and a Manticore. So, Tin Man, what do you say your thoughts on Retribution in currently like the current meta, and what type of like if he was to take two caster pairing, what 2 do you think he should start with?
In terms of the nationwide competitive meta, that's not really something I keep up on.
It's a tough one because Retribution is probably even more rare than Minions. You know, like you hardly ever see Retribution anymore, and they're not bad. The Virus 2 list that has all the Griffins and stuff, it does very well. Ron is always good. You always have to look out for the Raven, assassination. Other great lists are stuff like, the Kaelissa new tier where like you can't run on the first turn and all this stuff. So they're good. You just don't see them around. And I don't know if it's just because people don't like the look of the models or whatever, but it was almost like a trap question I was sending your way because you really hardly see them anywhere.
I got friends that play Retribution. One I don't really see anymore, and one I see when his employer doesn't schedule him to work the 4 to 10 shift on the night we're getting together to play War Machine. But like I said, he's not a competitive guy either. He, in fact, because of the state of things in my hometown, he actually went a while without getting new stuff, so he's looking into catching up. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the competitive, when I go to a con, I hang out in the Iron Arena, man. I'm like in terms of what's rocking in the competitive scene. I'm like the last guy to ask.
Yeah. I would say if you want to look into 2 lists to get into right away, I would look to get into the Raven tier, or I think it's a tier, where you have all the Griffins and all that stuff. And also looking getting into the Raven, where you got the 3 units of, and this is if you want to go competitive. Of course, it's all up to you, but how much you want to get into this. But that's the pairing I would say, Raven and Viros 2. And then it's like, okay, if it's something I need to shoot down, I got that. If it's something I need to punch in the face, I got Virus 2. So you kind of have like both sides of the coin there. Kind of agree with that, Tin Man, or?
Well, like I said, generally when I'm playing against Retribution, I'm playing against Raven, Gareth, Adeptus Ron, Osram. Not, I think I played against Thyra once.
Yeah, I fought Osram once, and that's just really more of a thing. Or is it Osram? I don't know, but it's more like he was new to it, Retribution. So I don't know. But again, probably each year I probably faced Retribution twice a year. It's pretty rare, and sometimes even less than that. Next one here, coming back to David Williams. He has another set of questions here, and the first one is Sturgis. What's his tier like, and is it any good? And the funny thing is that when I first read this, I actually couldn't remember what Sturgis's tier was. I remember it had something to do with, trenchers and stuff, but I had to kind of go back and take a look at it. And this is what it is. You pretty much have to take either like the storm collars and stuff like that, or Stormsmith or trenchers. And it's the same stuff for solos, where it's all this like the Stormsmith or the trencher type solos. And the tier 1 is if you have that stuff up there, then for every trencher unit, you get to increase your Stormsmith force allowance by 1. Tier 2 says that if you include 1 or more trencher models and 1 or more jacks with an advanced deployment, then trenchers get Pathfinder on your first turn. Next one is that if you have at least 1 storm tower, then your storm towers get advanced deploy. That's a pretty big deal. And then the last one, tier 4, is that if you include Jakes and 2 or more light jacks in the battle group there, in Sturgis's battle group, then Jake's battle group gains free Grenadier or Firefly. So what I came up with this one here is I kind of played around with some different builds and stuff, but what I actually ended up doing is I took Sturgis, who is running the 2 hunters, because you need that for the last one. Jake's is running a storm wall, because you want those storm walls to be putting up those, templates for you to pull things into. She's going to end up getting a free Firefly from the tier 4, so that's great, getting some like free 5 points. I have Rangers in there, 5 different storm collars, min trenchers, a chain gun, and 2 storm towers. Now, the big thing here is that I actually like the trenchers here, at least at the minimum, because a lot of this stuff is not survivable. The storm collars die easily. The storm tower dies easily. So you want to get that cloud up so that, okay, zap, 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 cloud up, and then they can't even hit these things. Meanwhile, from the chain gun and the storm wall, you're getting 3 different templates you get to pull things into at the feet. Between the pod from the storm wall, Firefly going another way, and then these 5 storm collars, you're getting to zap things like crazy. And because of all that infantry clearing, that's really why I went with the hunters onto Sturgis, because then you have those to really do the punching into heavies until it's time for like, all right, Stormwall, go mess that guy up. So what do you think about that list there, Tin Man?
Pretty solid. Plus, you could use the trencher chain gun crews for 2 points to increase the field allowance of the storm callers. Mm-hmm. And I'm a guy that happens to own 9 storm callers.
Yeah, you could be pushing this more. I mean, instead of the second storm tower, you could have taken a second chain gun. You'd have to get another point somewhere to actually get those storm colors in. But I mean, you could push this pretty far. It's just like, again, I don't think for the most part he needs all those trenchers. So that's why I have the 2 units, the 1 chain gun and the 1 min trencher unit. But you know what? Looking at this, I think it's definitely playable. You know, I don't know if it's going to be winning any tournaments, but it's a solid list. So there's that one. And it was nice to see that there's a tier list out there that I hadn't really even thought of. And it's like, oh, you know what? This is actually pretty solid. I'd play that for sure. Number 2, he had a question. Do you like long gunners or trenchers for board control? And this is for the Warcasters Peace Striker, Epic Striker, and Sturgis. So for board control, which one of those would you take there, Tin Man? Long gunners or trenchers?
Moment here.
My thoughts is that I don't really associate either of those with board control. I mean, long gunners really have a long threat, especially if you have someone like Peace Striker that can give them snipes or looking at like 18-inch range with double tapping. I mean, trencher commandos are good for kind of board control a bit because they're hard to deal with, but they're not really board control models. So I think it's kind of looking the wrong direction.
They do, with the unit attachment, they do get the suppressing fire order.
You could do that, yeah, with the long gunners. I mean, that's a lot of points for the one template. 12 points, but it is, yeah, some board control. I mean, he said that the casters he's going with here is Peace Striker, E Striker, and Sturgis. E Striker doesn't really like either of these models. I mean, I guess maybe if you took Trencher Commandos, you can actually kill a lot of stuff with them.
Yeah, Trencher Commandos are definitely better with Epic Striker. In fact, I use them with Epic Striker all the time.
Okay, yeah.
You can literally run them up on some, like some high armor infantry, and then he pops his feet, and then they all move 3 inches and stick somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Long gunners, that's basically just a unit that acts like one giant artillery piece. When I use them, I tend to take them with siege because they're the range 14 of the guns and the combined range attack. I mean, they were the original kings of combined range attack. Mm-hmm. And then siege pops his feet. There's something that's going to be taken of like some power 21 hit at half the armor.
Yeah.
In fact, of what I used to win games with them where it's like, all right, siege pops his feet and something's about to take that power 21 hit there. As long as I don't roll snake eyes, of course.
So, yeah, I guess the answer here is if you're looking at those 3 casters, long gunners, we kind of liked it with Peace Striker and with Sturgis. You could make the covering fire and pull it into there with Sturgis. The trenchers, especially if they're commandos, we like them with Epic Striker. I don't know if Sturgis really likes it. If it's regular trenchers, I guess if either is a gun line, either the Peace Striker or the Sturgis, they would both like the trencher clouds. But again, it's not. I wouldn't be looking at either of these guys and saying, "Oh, board control." So then the second one here says, so he has some things going and in the works for him and his meta. Not complaining. Something is always better than nothing. I think he's just talking about how his meta is growing, just kind of like yours. Not rich, so I'm only getting one or the other. What say you? Oh, here he is. He's saying if you had to buy either just, and I guess we'll have to say trencher commandos, and long gunners, because he didn't say which trenchers. If you were to buy only one of those units, which one would you get, Tin Man?
I would get the trencher commandos because there's more than one way to use them.
It's true. Yeah, I'm a fan of the trencher commandos. Although I know I actually
they look cooler.
Like long gunners more. So my vote, I would not hold you anything against you if you did the commandos. They're a great unit, but I'd probably go with the long gunners first. But either way, I guess we're both saying from that probably do both before you come back and get the regular trenchers. But are you still there? It doesn't look like you're moving. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. So there you go. So a vote from Tin Man for the Commandos, a vote from Malorian for the Long Gunners. Working our way down these questions here. Maybe I'll do the shorter one while I have to read through this longer one. Have you ever thought about playing Kings of War, or have you played it? So is that a game you've played before, Tin Man?
No.
Yeah.
Watched a little video where they were demoing it, and then while I was watching that, I saw the new Death Battle appear on my subscription feed, where it was the rematch between Superman and Goku. And I said, well, I need to be watching this instead. And I never got back to that Kings of War video.
Yeah, Kings of War was always like the guys that basically made the Mantic models. And like, here's a crummy system. If you ever want to play with this, it's not GW. And now this is the system that fantasy players are going to, because it's all that's left is like a competitive set. And I have never played it. I have no interest in playing it. I see it as a watered down fantasy, which is still better than an Age of Sigmar. So if you're looking for something as a fantasy player, I go to it. But otherwise, War Machine is what I'd really suggest.
It's funny. As I was talking to one of my BattleTech buddies. I mean, I don't play BattleTech, but I've got friends with a lot of the guys in our local BattleTech community, and he was complaining that there were so many Age of Sigmar players showing up at the game store they hang out at.
Really?
That they're looking for a potential alternate spot to go play, because the people playing Age of Sigmar, and I scratched my head at that, and I was like, what? But fantasy players hate it. A dude burned his army on YouTube. He's like, yeah, I saw that. And he said it's like 40K players are getting into it. As like a little game to have on the side.
I guess.
So he says like the only people that like it are the people that never played fantasy before.
Yeah, I could see that. But now we have Casual 1414 saying, how is painting viewed in the War Machine tournament scene? So this is going to be a whole bunch of questions. So for this first one here, painting, I mean, there's a lot of people outside of War Machine that figure like, oh, you don't need to paint when you're in War Machine. And for the most part, you don't, unless it's like hardcore or something like that. But most people paint their armies anyway, right? Just like in any hobby, no one likes playing against plain plastic and metal. And there's painting awards and all the rest of it. So in all the tournaments I've gone to, I would say usually at least 70% of the armies are painted, fully painted. So what's your experience there, Tin Man?
Just depends on the meta. Just depends on the tournament you're playing in. I always encourage people to paint their stuff because, for one thing, we know when you paint it, we know it's yours. If you just glue the pewter together and put it on the tabletop, it's real easy for mix-ups to happen.
And I think, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like real easy for mix-ups to happen. And someone might get home and be like, wait a minute, how did I get this extra dude? Or, hey, this dude's not even in my army. Yeah. And then, if they're honest, they're going back to the game store trying to get it back to you. If they're not honest, they throw it in the shelf somewhere and hope you forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, I still have yet to go to one of the bigger cons in the States, but my understanding is that you see even more painted stuff there because, of course, if you're looking to compete in either Iron Gauntlet or Hardcore, you need to be painted anyway. Plus, people want to be looking good for other people, right? So there's supposed to be even a higher percentage of people painting their armies at conventions as opposed to even regular tournaments. And like I said, around here, it's usually like 70% painted anyway.
Yeah, I've seen people bring the pewter swarms to big cons before, and they expect to get grief for it. Expect the professional painter to like slip you a business card and be like, "Hey, I'll paint those for you." Here's my website. Review my fees.
And I
expect that.
I would rather them do that than go around with those pewter models. So I have nothing against that. He also says he's getting deeper into Signar, and he wants to have an idea of what are a few of the must-have solos, and what units do we feel are must-haves in your collection. So what would you say would be like your top 3 solos he should buy?
Definitely wants to get himself a Squire.
Yep, Squire.
He definitely wants to get himself a pack of Stormsmiths.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just that good. And even though they die so easily. And he definitely wants to get himself especially if you're new, you definitely want to get yourself a Journeyman Warcaster.
Exactly.
Not necessarily. Oh, we got the same thing. But yeah, definitely not. No, I'm not talking about Allison Jakes. I mean, just the old school stock Journeyman Warcaster.
Yeah.
Because you're going to want to throw that Arcane Shield out there. Because not every, especially if you play him with a caster that already has Arcane Shield, then that's 2 things with Arcane Shield running around.
And I mean, another thing to remember going into Signar is that you're not playing Signar, you're playing Merknar. So look across at all the mercenary solos you have, because that's where there's a deep, deep wealth and all these other things you can take. So some people, when they start off, they want to be those Signar purists, but don't. There's these mercenary things work for your faction, and they're great. I mean, if you want to look,
well, you're playing Merknar. I'm one of those Signar purists.
I'll work on you. I'll win you over.
I throw in a few solos, mercenary solos every now and then. But yeah, I've got my mercenaries in one case, and I've got my Signar in another with a few solos here and there, a few Merc solos here and there, with the exception of Alexia and the Risen. That's the only Merc unit I have. Yeah, that's the only unit of Mercs I have in my Signar case. So it's like, I don't want to roll. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got the Army Transport Division case. It's the size of a foot locker on these really, really janky wheels. And I don't mean janky in a good way. Like, literally, like I'll be pulling it and it'll stop because it'll catch on a pebble or something. It's awful.
Oh, no.
Right? And then I've got my storm wall in this right here. So it's like, and then my Mercs are in an Army Transport Motor Pool. I'm not carrying all 3 of those things
at the
same time.
I'll repack for a certain tournament and just make sure in this case has just my things for this tournament. And
then there's always that essential thing that you need that's on that one tray that you can't fit with that other stuff you're trying to put in there. It's like, no, man, no.
So while we're talking about election units, the top 3 units, I would say, and we'll see if we match up again, strictly talking about Signar, would be Gun Mages, Rangers, and then my last one would be Stormblades. Those are the 3 I'd say you'd want to get. Stormblades with the UA and Gunners. Would be your 3.
Gun Mages, and you definitely got to get his Dudeness the Dude.
Yeah.
Because then they're ignoring stealth. And I remember running Gun Mages all the time before they can ignore stealth. And the smirk on my Crixian opponent as he goes, they have stealth. If you shoot them, it automatically misses. Yeah. And the guy I played against, he would say it just like that. The automatic misses. He'd do the jazz hands, He'd move on his arm. That's always good. Another unit, personally, I do like the Stormblades, of course. And if you get Stormblades, you got to get a Stormclad. That's just a must-have. Now, unit number 3, that's a little tougher because Rangers are great if you're going shooty.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to throw those Rangers on there just and get within 5 inches of thing to make it easier for everyone else to hit. But
I found Rangers worth it just on their own. I mean, 5 points for advanced deploy unit, and I mean they can just be helping and buffing each other, right?
Oh yeah.
Rat 8, POW 11s, they'll do work.
Well, let's see here. Yeah,
this is Merknar, so look at stuff like Alexia and the Risen and these other Merc units. Ayanna and Holt.
Yeah, Ayanna and Holt in my mercenary case, And Alexia and the Risen, I played her more in Mark 1 because I just had to always take her with Nemo, and I played Nemo a lot.
Mm.
And I particularly Nemo 1 for because she helped generate a power token. And stuff tend to die around her a lot, so that meant more Risen.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow,
yeah, third unit there.
Third unit, because I don't just have the mirror because we mirrored the solo, so you gotta have to throw something different.
Be the same. That's fine.
I would say if you're a beginner, Storm Guard because they hit hard too. But there's not as many rules to keep track of, so while you're playing, you're not going to get as confused. You might not find yourself confused about certain things, like, well, does this have to be within so many inches of this in order to get this? They're more straightforward, and the Electro Leap multiplier effect is always good.
Sure. Next part of his question was that he's slowly growing and pushing into 25 and 35-point games. I'm just going to make a note here that you probably want to push a little bit farther, like do the 35. I mean, one of the problems that I see with new players is they start with the lower point games when they're looking for a tactical game. Like, oh, War Machine's got nothing. And they never get to that 50-point game. But he asked, at that stage, should he be buying gun mages or boom howlers? What is he going to get the most use out of for this and past 35? And boom howlers, they're used a lot in Signar, but gun mages, they'd be, again, the number one. You're going to see them in a lot of lists. You agree?
Yeah, gun mages are they're toolbox unit. They're definitely handy. And they're literally good with just about every caster. So
he said here that tournament domination is his ultimate goal. He started with P Striker to learn the game. Do you think I should just dive into the better casters immediately or stick with the newbie stuff for now? And I guess the first thing I'd say is, I mean, it's not like P Striker is a really weak caster. Just like I ran P Striker double Stormwall for tournaments, so did Jay Larson. So, I mean, it's a pretty legitimate thing. I think you should get a good grasp of all the casters. If you want to go to tournaments and be competitive, you should just know all of them. You should know your Haley 2, your Haley 1, your Kane 2, your Siege, and then look into your Nemos. Like, it really depends on your meta to say what's the best caster to be taking. Because, I mean, hey, if there's tons and tons of infantry by you and people take, like, really weak casters, Nemo could just be ripping it up. So, what are your thoughts there, Tin Man?
In terms of tournament domination as a new player, you really should just focus on having fun and just playing the game. When you're in a situation where you got to that level where you can comfortably run 50 points, and you can play like 10 different games against like 10 different people every week, then you can start thinking about, winning what you got to do to win the big tournaments.
And realize that there'll be a while before you're dominating tournaments. There's a lot to learn this game. And, I mean, after even a year, there'll be casters you haven't faced yet. Where it's like, oh, I'm up against Raven. Okay, I'll just go up the board. Oh, I'm dead, right? It takes a while until you start learning all the tricks to where you're actually going to be winning tournaments, consistently.
Like, you might want to grab a notebook and, like, start... just go through the stats of all the different warcasters and just jot off notes off to the side. I think, like, what warcasters would be good, what would be good against them, and whatnot. But it's like, well, then there's thinking of the warcaster and then the synergy with the stuff they're taking with them. So it's it's like I said, when you're playing 10 different games against 10 different people each week, then that's the point where you can go, okay, I'm ready to go to lock and load and try to make it into the top 8.
You have to really dedicate.
You basically got to treat War Machine like it was a part-time job. Me, I'm a guy that plays like maybe 1 or 2 games a week. So, I could go to an in-store tournament and have some fun, but going to a tournament at a con, please, I'm I'm not going to spend my entire day in a tournament. I'm going to be doing a variety of things, man.
Yeah, I mean, people having fun. Stuart Pantner says, I'm a new player to Hordes, and I'm building up a Trollbloods force. I am in a Journeyman League, week 2 of 6, and have to use Madrak's Battle Box as a starting point. I am looking for advice on how to build this list from Battle Box 15, 25, and 35 points. So far, I've gone with a minion of warders to take it to the 15-point mark. Any advice on building up and playing them would be much appreciated. So he's already at a 15-point stage. He needs 10 points more to get to the 25. What's your experience with Trollbloods there, Tin Man?
I had a few friends play Trollbloods over the years, but not guys that have had built up like big forces of it. In terms of giving someone advice of what to build for a Trollblood list, I'm like the last guy to ask about that. Honestly.
One of the things, I mean, when we're looking at the battle box, this is one of the battle boxes that come with no heavies. You have Madrak. I mean, I guess you could say like Madrak's a heavy, but you get 2 axe, or is it 2 axers or 2 impalers? I think it's 2 impalers you get with it, right?
Yeah, 2 impalers and a single axer.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things you might want to think about is getting in an actual heavy. Mulg would be a great one, but I'm not sure with the Journeyman Leagues. It's been so long since I've done a Journeyman League, whether you can drop some of those out. I mean, you don't really need 2 impalers, so you might want to drop something out, get in a heavy. Stones are also, the Stone Bearer is a pretty nice thing to have, especially if you're going with the warders and stuff. I don't know, maybe you want to save that for 35 points where you have more things to affect. But it could be that that's the first thing you want to get there. I mean, you only got to min warders. I mean, I don't know if he's having any issues with being swarmed because he's Madrak. And so he can just be like, okay, there's lots of guys, pop feet, kill and move, kill and move, kill and move, and just get rid of them all. But popping armor might be his hardest thing. So getting a heavy is probably the first thing I'd be doing there to get up to 25. And then once you have another heavy going to 35, I'd be looking at getting another unit of warders and then the stone. Is that kind of what you're thinking too, or?
Well, for Madrak, it's pretty much the striker of hordes. He's a balanced caster. Pretty much anything in Hordes Primal is going to be good with him. One solid unit you'll definitely want for Trollbloods is the Trollblood champions, the Trollkin champions, where you want to grab Scully Boldhammer to go with them.
I mean, one thing you should be looking at this as a new player is that you shouldn't be necessarily be getting units to win the Journeyman League as opposed to getting units that you'll normally be using at 50 that you want to learn in smaller games. So like I was saying, maybe you want a heavy because you want to get a heavy in the list. Well, if you don't plan later in 50 to be using a regular heavy, that you just be using Mulg, but Mulg doesn't fit in this, well, take something you're going to be using. The whole point of the Journeyman League is to learn the game and slowly grow, not only in the point size for doing bigger games, but then helping you slowly build your force so you can be playing them. So use the advantage of that learning more than like, I got to win this.
Yeah, Journeyman Warcaster is about getting, Journeyman War League's about, a Journeyman League is, of course, about getting a feel for the game, getting your stuff painted, stuff like that. You just getting a feel for painting your models, getting a feel for playing games, and just taking it, just taking it at a reasonable pace instead of trying to jump in from the deep end. It's for like someone who wants to switch factions, but doesn't want to have to, start out 50 points on that new faction.
So next,
yeah. Oh,
yeah. Next question here comes from Zach Richardson. I'm trying to keep this going because we're already over an hour and we still got 4 more questions. Like I said, it's great getting all these questions, but we got to kind of rip some of them out. Zach asks, could you talk about the Menoth casters and what type of lists work well for them? We already kind of talked about Harbinger. Really, the way that to kind of summarize, it's not like we want to touch all the Menoth casters, but in general, Menoth is more of a slow advance, slow and steady, wins the race, buff everything around, and play it safe. They want to protect everything with their choir, with martyrdom if they're going like that, or cloud wall, and they're not really the run across and go for assassination. I mean, you can do that with Krios, but they're usually okay. We're going to be solid, moving up, and it's like a set game plan of what we're going to be doing. Is that kind of how you see Menoth there, Tin Man?
Man, Menoth is what I describe it to people as a faction that is basically can be summed up in the phrase that the whole is greater than the sum of each part.
Yeah,
they're all about synergy, and they're all about the sick combos. And so when you're playing with Menoth, you're thinking about the combos, you're thinking about the synergy. You're thinking that's kind of how you want to think for building a Menoth list. But like I said, the main opponent I have is a Menoth player.
Mm-hmm.
And his stuff, no model is just left out on its own. It's always something nearby buffing it or just making it better. In fact, when you play a format like Mangled Metal,
mm-hmm.
Menoth players will complain the most about Mangled Metal.
Where's my choir? This is dumb.
Yeah. They'll say, like, I don't get to have my choir. I don't get to have my vassals. I don't get to have my vassal mechanics.
Where's my crutches?
Yeah, where's my crutches? That's a very, very crutchy army.
So, and normally because of things like the choir that make it so you can't shoot their jacks unless you have magical range, that's why they're more defensive. They're fine sitting back with their reckoners and shooting you up and whittling you down, while something like either errants or exemplars go up there just to contest the zone while you slowly kind of whittle them down and work your way forward. So that's generally how Menoth works. But of course, guys like Durst change up the game, where it's like, no, we're just a freaking rock of jacks. Again, defensive, but now they're going to get in your face right away. Or someone like Krios, they'll be like, pop and drop, now you're dead. So there is differences, but in general, that's how Menoth is. Taylin R says, so in my club, from time to time, I hear the complaint that hordes are more powerful than War Machine. The counter argument that always comes up is Crix and how they're the most powerful faction. I was wondering if you guys could speak about both these sides. So, Tin Man, hordes or War Machine?
The game is extensively play tested and balanced. So it's your War Machine, of course, is resource management. Hordes is risk management. A new War Machine player is going to feel that way because they have a limited amount of focus that they use. And the Hordes player could just keep forcing something, but then they risk the model that they need frenzying the next turn. So, like I said, there's balance, but in terms of Hordes being more powerful than War Machine, I can tell as a circle player, I'm not bringing high power and just beating you down. I got to use hit and run tactics and all this other stuff on you.
Mm. I mean, one of the balances there with hordes is that you got these beasts, where it's not like jacks, where like I can only get 3 focus, and there's only so much focus to go around. I can go in with 5 heavies, and I can force them all to the max. The thing is, like you said, then you're going to be risking frenzying. Plus, it's not like in War Machine where you automatically get your focus. You have to draw this from your beasts. And what an opponent will do is if they're facing hordes, they're going to kill off your beasts. Because then once they're dead, if you want to get any more fury, you got to cut yourself and start losing health. So overall, when I look at the two systems, I feel that they are very closely balanced. I don't think it's a big issue. I mean, sure, in Horde you can transfer, but hey, if there's a whole bunch of little shots, that's not that great. In War Machine, you can camp up and get your armor higher, so that's great. If there's a bunch of lower power attacks against your caster, they basically do nothing. I mean, late game, normally the way you see this is that Hordes does a lot better at early game, and then War Machine does a lot better at late game. So it is fairly balanced, and the more you play it, the more you find that. And as far as Crix being the most powerful faction out there, I'm of two.
That's just body and soul.
Yeah, well, it could be. This is the two sides of it. Either one, I find that new groups usually find that Crix is broken because they're not used to dealing with this infantry. Whereas eventually people design the list to kill all the infantry, and then Crix aren't that big of a problem until you have things like body and soul. So I'm not sure which applies, but yeah, just know that everything is fairly well balanced. Next one here from Matt Toshi89 says, can you make a janky list to combat Legion with Siege? So you were talking about Siege there before. How would you build a Siege list to deal with Legion?
The same Siege list I build to deal with everyone else.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to be going in with a range list. Of course, we're looking at Siege, and you're looking for these high power attacks, right? Legion really doesn't like being shot. That's what Siege does. They do have higher defense, so you're going to want things like Rangers out there to actually make sure you hit. But things like a Storm Wall will be great, of course, running with Siege to get those hits off. And Holt is great to have in there if you want to harm something. But yeah, it's your general Siege list is what you're going to be taking against Legion. You know, you'll have your Black 13th in there. You'll have your gun mages. Some people like doing it with storm blades. There's a couple of different ways to do it. Murder ponies are a very popular thing to have in there. Just all range stuff that the more powerful it is, even long gunners could work in there. And then you just pop feet, and man, Legion heavies, you could pop that Siege feet and kill off like 3 heavies, you know, and then all of a sudden they're in a lot of trouble. Any other thoughts on that, Tin Man?
Like I said, same list I'd bring against everybody else.
Yeah. So I guess he was looking for us to actually make a full list, but that's actually pretty close to what a full list is. You know, he's when you get all those parts in there, the storm wall, the full murder ponies, the blazers, you know, the Black 13th, the gun mages, usually have a lot of smaller shooters as well. I mean, that's the thing, like Legion, all their stealth guys as well will just die to the gun mages. Oh, you took a couple of those or Striders or the Deathstalkers, gun mages, get them. And they can't really get past that. So, yeah, Siege should be a pretty easy. You don't really need a janky one to deal with Legion. So
just want to remember combined melee and combined ranged attack to get the most out of his feet.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a janky list, like if you're just trying to have fun with it and you're wondering, like, how do I make a janky one? Try his tier list where you get like all these juniors and take like a bunch of like hunters and chargers for like, you know, 3 and 5 points because they're cheaper, right? You could do fun stuff like that and shoot them down that way. But at the end of the day, it's Legion doesn't like being shot and Siege loves to shoot. So however you want to build that, it's going to do well. Last question here. I mean, there's a couple of others that talk us about asking us to make videos, so that'll be something separate. But last one here from Patrick Robinson says, "Hi, Malorian. As you know, Age of Sigmar are taking a lot of people are changing people so that they'll play War Machine now. I know a lot of strong competitive players that are trying out too, Warhammer ETC players and such. How would you guide these players to start up? They don't want a battle box, but models that they can be used competitively. What is the best way to introduce pros to War Machine?" And that's one of the problems. A lot of stuff like German leagues and the starter boxes are designed to gently introduce you to the game. But these fancy guys that are coming over, they're looking for like the most competitive game right away. So
what they need to do is get the all-in-one starter boxes because they start you out at 35 points. Then you just buy, a solo here, a unit there, and that gets you to 50.
Yeah, I mean, those boxes, like you said, are the best way to get these players into the game. They're all very good casters. They're 95% all very good models you're going to be using all the time. If you really want to jump right in, hey, go to Discount Games. They have a little tournament tab at the top where you can see all the winning tournament lists, and you can buy them right there if that's what they want. So, I mean, if that's what they want to do, there's ways to do it, right? Privateer Press makes a 35-point box for you that's competitive, and there's places like that, Discount Games, that says like, hey, do you want to know what won last tournament? Here it is. Do you want to buy it now? So I am more in favor of them learning how to play the game first and somewhat gently getting in, but I know that there's people in there that just want the ultra competitive right away, and all right, if that's what they want.
Thing is, if you jump into War Machine like that, you'll get frustrated and probably rage quit.
Yeah, I'd agree. You have to understand that there's a lot of learning to be done. You can't just walk into this, take a net list and expect to win. You could take body and soul against, as a new player and play against somebody experienced running Grail, and Grail will kick your butt because they know the game. So either way, that's all the questions for what they posted before. I know there's a couple of posts on people who put down questions for this video, but I think now that we're already 20 minutes over, we'll cut it short. I'll come back and I'll type in answers for you guys that did do that. But Tin Man, was there anything else you want to cover in this video? Oh, recommendations.
Recommendations. Well, I had a recommendation in line, and then, well, it's not a YouTube channel. Not recommended.
That's fine. It's our show. We'll do whatever we want.
So, for the rest of us who aren't going to Gen Con, Advanced Deployment is doing basically not going to Gen Con sale, where if you place an order during the time Gen Con's going on, they'll give you like a 13% discount on your order, and you can get stuff like this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is my 40mm Grumpy Cat flag. So you could be playing like Incursion or Close Quarters, and there's Grumpy Cat on the table going, I hope both players lose.
Yeah.
So yeah, Grumpy Cat. I had those made at Advanced Deployment. So you want to just Google Advanced Deployment, and it'll be like the second or third site to pop up, and go into their store and check their stuff out. She's doing 13% off this week, so I'm actually the last order I placed for them. I kind of derped on a couple of things, so I gotta order some more stuff, and I'm gonna actually get some custom rec markers. They're gonna be pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be Jackie Chan doing this for the rec marker.
I'd say my recommendation that's not War Machine related, that's a YouTube channel, is I'd be keeping an eye on my good old buddy, Once Bitten 360. He is a longtime fantasy player, and with the whole Age of Sigmar thing going on, his solution to this is that their group, they already built a circuit there so that a lot of the different states there in the U.S., they had this tournament circuit going on, and now they're going to work together to build a 9th edition to run a tournament circuit out of. So I'd be following that scene. So if you are one of those guys, it is like, I want to be following that. Don't look. I mean, I would rather you went to War Machine, but if you're one of these guys that are just sad and you're trying to figure out something, don't go to Kings of War. I'd look first to going to Once Bitten 360 and this 9th edition they're going to build. So there you go. So otherwise, I think that's all we got for today. We're more than 20 minutes over now, but hey, we had a lot to talk about. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
We were like animals is growing.